This is our town hall meeting, which we do normally on a semi-annual basis to let you be informed about the process of the city and for the chance for you to ask questions. We're going to show you a video in a few moments. And if you would, let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for all the benefits that you bestow on us as a community, as the citizens of this country. Let our minds be open to the process of city government and the goals that we set forth in the future. And bless those of us in the community, the country, who have had illnesses and need of your help. Bless this in your name. Amen. If you would, please stand and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First, we have a video that Tom Bryson has put together for you, which is about, I think runs about 17 minutes, and we'll talk about quite a bit of the things that's happened since the last town hall meeting, and after that we'll introduce the council and the staff, and then you will be able to ask questions at that time. Thank you.
Farmers Branch, the city in a park, the best living place, the jewel in the crown. How about Farmers Branch, a place where it's already hot and it's only June? Tell you what, let's go inside City Hall, cool off a little bit, and talk to some folks about what's been going on in Farmers Branch so far in 2011 that sets the stage for the rest of the year. You want to? Come on, it'll be fun. One of the biggest things that happened in Farmers Branch over the past year was the beginning of Dart Light Rail back last December. We're going to go talk to Michael Spicer in the Community Services Office to see more about that and what's coming up. Michael, how long has the city of Farmers Branch been planning for the arrival of Dart Rail?
Quite literally, since the creation of DART in 1983, we have documents that date back to those to 83 and 84 that anticipate redevelopment of what was then referred to as the old Farmers Branch area in anticipation of the arrival of Dart Rail in the future.
Now, since rail has actually started, light rail arrived in December. What can you speak to about what it's been like to actually have Dart here? You've been part of this planning process for so long. What was it like to actually see it happen?
Well, obviously very excited, to say the least, after so many years of laboring to prepare for the arrival of DART. Very exciting, well received, getting a great ridership is building, and now we are at the threshold of new development in the station area. At the most recent City Council meeting, Council did authorize the City Manager to proceed with an agreement with Western Securities to develop no less than 195 urban-style apartments, 4-story structured parking, a minimum of 10,000 square feet of retail flex space on the ground floor.
And when do we expect for folks to actually be seeing construction underway?
Well, Western Securities does have 6 months to close on the property. Within 3 months of closing on the property, they are then obligated to get construction underway.
Now, when people ride the Green Line coming in from Dallas, they say that it's very obvious when you leave Dallas and you come into Farmers Branch. There's many more trees. You pass a historical park. It's a very arbor-like setting. what is the addition of development in the station area going to add to that ambiance?
I think the appearance to the rider on the train as they enter Farmers Branch will literally be a city emerging from the park-like setting that greets you upon your arrival.
All right, here comes Fire Chief Steve Parker. They've got a lot going on right now with a new fire station under construction. Let's see if we can grab just a minute with him to talk about that. Hey, Chief, how you doing? Good to see you. I hope you don't mind taking just a minute to talk to us. We're trying to get a feel for what all's going on with different city departments here in the middle of 2011, and we know the fire department's got a lot happening, right?
Oh, Tom, we do have a lot happening. I think the big news right now is the construction of new fire station number 1. That is sort of all-encompassing right now. We're very excited about it, and I think the community should be excited about it also.
Now, the new station is located more in the middle of the city than the old Station 1. What can you tell us about where it is and why that location?
Oh, yeah, it's located at 13,000 block of Webb Chapel. That's going to be just south of the library. And we've got it strategically located in the middle of the city to allow us to have coverage over the main residential area of the city. With the development of Fire Station 3, we now have the ability to move Station 1 more to the central part of the city, and that's going to balance our coverage out, and it's going to make us be able to get to people's homes faster if there was a medical or fire emergency.
Now, as far as the timetable goes, when can folks look for you to be cutting a ribbon on new Station 1?
I'm hoping we're going to be cutting a ribbon just after the beginning of the new year. I'm thinking early January is when we're going to have the grand opening celebration. But I think people will start seeing the walls going up and starts going, hey, that's a fire station. Maybe in September it'll start looking like a building going up.
Okay, with temps in the 90s outside, it seems kind of hard to remember that it wasn't that long ago we were digging out from 6 inches of snow and ice to welcome Super Bowl 45 to the Metroplex as one of the official Super Bowl host cities. That actually wasn't it, but it looked a lot like that. Now, to talk about Super Bowl 45 and its economic impact on Farmers Branch, as well as the other economic development activity that's been going on in the first 6 months, let's go down here and see if John Land, Director of Economic Development and Tourism, has just a couple of minutes for us.
So, Mr. Cuban, are you saying there's no way that you can route the parade through Farmers Branch? Not even on the Green Line? All right, well, maybe next year. Thanks.
Hey, John, sorry to interrupt. Wonder if you got just a couple of minutes to talk about stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, John, when it comes to Super Bowl 45, Farmers Branch was one of the 12 host communities for the Super Bowl. What exactly did that mean?
Well, it was part of being something that was just a magic time in Dallas. The city of Dallas, city of Arlington, city of Fort Worth couldn't have hosted everything that happened without the partner cities. For us, selfishly, we got 10,000 rooms out of it. We had a lot of people come into our community for the first time, and it put Farmers Branch on an international spotlight. We were one of the featured communities in Media Day at the Super Bowl, and we were able to interact with folks from around the Metroplex and around the world, and we really felt we put our best face forward during that time.
Now, aside from that, one would think that economic development might slow down through the winter months, but in fact, the first half of this year has been as hot as ever.
Well, we've been very blessed with coming out of the recession, perhaps quicker than other regions in the state and in the United States. Started the year off with Weir's grand opening. They moved their headquarters, warehouse, distribution center, and a retail outlet to Farmers Branch, and consumed some 415,000 square feet. Shortly after that, we announced that Wisteria moved their headquarters to Farmers Branch into 119,000 square feet. Maxim, a deal that we had been working on for 2 years, was awarded a $1.25 million grant from the state of Texas, and they have now commenced construction on a 150,000 square foot research and development center. Essilor, one of our top employers, went through another expansion with a 60,000 square foot research and development center off their I-35 campus.
Now, when it comes to the retail side of things, obviously the great movement seen down at the intersection of Josie and Valley View over the last couple of years has been a great indicator of things to come in that area. The area, of course, now has been renamed. There's a grocery store on the way and other retail happening, right?
Yeah, the City Council took some pretty bold steps in revitalizing that area. For a long time, there were hopes that the private sector would take that mission and I think we believed that we could have a role in helping spur that on. As a result, we do have a Walmart Market coming. We'll be closing with them in mid-July. Chase Bank has now torn down their old bank, and they're building a brand new state-of-the-art center that will also include their ATM machine and their drive-thru, which were both stranded. We're starting to see other vendors moving in amongst the corners. There is a new coffee shop that's opened on the southwest corner, and hopefully we'll have an announcement about a new retailer on the northeast corner. We're having a lot of interest on the pad sites that face Josie. We expect to have a deal done probably within the next probably 2 to 3 months.
Now, for those that may be a little put off by the high cost of gasoline these days and want to resort to two wheels a little bit further down the road from that area, there's a new bicycle establishment.
Yeah, Performance Bikes moved their newest store to Farmers Branch, and that was a real win for us. I don't think there's any surprise that the impact of the 635 widening is going to strain some of our properties along that area. For Performance Bikes to choose an area just north of that on Midway is huge for Farmers Branch. I went to their grand opening. What they indicated to us is this the most welcome they've ever felt in a community since opening.
Going back to a relocation that happened within the last couple of years, Soft Layer came to Farmers Branch and have just been continually expanding.
It's a fast-growing industry. Soft Layer is undergoing their second expansion since moving their headquarters to Farmers Branch. They're a huge success story for us. They've been featured in the Dallas Business Journal, and they're amongst our most elite employers.
One of the barometers of success in business and economic development circles is certainly the awards that the Dallas Business Journal comes forward with every year. This past year, Farmers Branch figured prominently.
That's correct. We were blessed to be finalists in 4 different categories, and just to be clear, we were a finalist against all cities in the Dallas Metroplex, not just communities of our size. We were a finalist in Best Corporate Headquarters Relocation with Weers, Maxim for Technology, the Green Line for Impact, and the Four Corners, now Branch Crossing, actually won Community Impact of the Year Award for the redevelopment of the Four Corners.
Great things so far in 2011. As for the second half of the year, what do you see as the economic development forecast?
We're really optimistic. Right now, our phone's been ringing off the wall. We've been having meetings almost daily with developers. We're working on 18 active projects. We won't get all of them, but we'll get our share. Some of those are game changers. Other of those are important for the fabric of our community. Really excited about the prospects for the station area. Just entered into a contract with Western Securities for a 195-unit mixed-use development that will feature 10,000 square feet of retail. In addition to that, we're starting to get other folks that are calling that want to be part of that project. With the Green Line running, I don't think there's any surprise that we're seeing that kind of activity. And we're blessed to be in the heart of the Metroplex and in the center of DFW.
There has been so much going on with the Parks and Recreation Department this year. We want to head up to that department and see who we can find to talk about some of these details. And look, it's Assistant City Manager Shanna Sims-Bradish. Good to see you. Wonder what you can tell us about everything that's been going on with Parks and Recreation so far this year. I mean, there's been a lot of new facilities in the parks and things like that. What about them?
Absolutely. It's been a very busy fall and spring that's put us right in the perfect position this summer to enjoy all of our parks. And then we have other things. For example, for our teens, we have a new inline skating rink that's at Orengood Park near Farmers Branch Elementary. Specific project to convert a tennis court into an inline hockey rink. And I encourage anyone to come out there. I believe it's open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. We do encourage people to wear their equipment to keep safe, but it's all a good thing. If you're more interested in a different type of activity, we have a new pétanque court near Gussie Field Waterworth Park. It's kind of a combination similar to bocce ball or horseshoes that came from southern France, but it's a great resource, and we were so pleased to have an Eagle Scout help us complete that project. Opened that in early May. And then, of course, Liberty Fest was a major undertaking at the end of May. We were excited to have 2 big concerts on Friday night with 38 Special, and then Saturday night with Rick Springfield. Although it was a warm weekend, it was a great weekend, and I think lots of people enjoyed the event.
plans for the future coming up in the second half of 2011?
Well, of course, we've got our fireworks coming on July 3rd at the Historical Park. So I certainly encourage everyone to come and enjoy celebrating our Independence Day. And then, of course, we've got coming up, we have Movie in the Park. We have the Bluegrass Festival coming in October, which if you didn't come last year, I really encourage you to come this year. Great music, great people, and a fun atmosphere.
The 4+ years that Gary Greer has been the city manager here, he's one of the most accessible city managers that anyone would ever want to meet. Let's see if he's got just a couple of minutes to talk about 2011 so far. Gary, wonder if you got just a couple of minutes for us. If you don't mind, these other 200 or 300 people come on in as well. All right. Okay, Gary, as the Chief Executive Officer of the city, obviously there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. What can you say about the broad perspective of where the city is at this point, midway into 2011?
I think the best thing I can say right now about Farmers Branch is we're poised for some really positive things. 2011 is going to be the merging of a lot of positive things all at one time in this community. We've been working so hard over the last few years to deal with the economy and to just really promote the city and try to get some more development in town. And right now what you see is actually old buildings being knocked down. You see redevelopment in the city. And really we see the economy making some signs that are positive. The city staff's working hard. A lot of great work going on there. And I think what you're going to see is this is kind of going to be a launching pad for our city. And I think the prominence of Farmers Branch in the Metroplex is going to be even greater than it has been in the past.
As far as the rest of 2011 and leading into 2012, what do you think the short-term forecast is? What can folks look for here in Farmers Branch over the next 6 or 8 months?
Well, I think they can look forward to us continuing to serve citizens in a very effective manner, and for us to see a lot of new development in the city. And I know this video talks a lot about some of those new developments, but there's even more that I think will finally be coming around now that the economy is changing a little bit. And I think what you'll see in Farmers Branch is a renewal of optimism and maybe some very, very positive, forward-thinking ideas that are coming from our citizens, our city council, and from our staff.
Several years ago, when you asked anyone about Farmers Branch in the Metroplex, you may have gotten a variety of answers, or you may have gotten where? Today, if you ask anyone about Farmers Branch in the Metroplex, what do you think the response is?
Well, I think a lot of people right now, I attend a lot of meetings throughout the Metroplex, and they say, oh, you're from Farmers Branch. There's something going on there right now. And, you know, I say, yeah, there's a lot of things going on there, and we're right in the middle of one of the biggest cities in the nation, and sometimes we get overshadowed, but they hear positive things about where we're going and what we're doing, and they're impressed, and that makes me feel pretty good as a city manager that, you know, they say, wow, you've got some of the best employees in the Metroplex. Yes, we do. You've got some development going on there. How did you get that to occur, especially in this environment? Well, we worked very hard and made that happen, and really had a concerted effort, both with the elected officials and with the staff. And, you know, they talk about, you know, y'all don't think normally there. You think out of the box. You try to think about things way before other people do, and you really have some principles there that guide you. And that's what I hear from other people. And a lot of times what's interesting is they want to hear more. They want to hear what we're doing. And I have a lot of city managers ask, you know, how did you do that, or why did you do that, or how can we copy what you're doing? And I find that as a real element of you know, satisfaction for the job that everyone's doing here in Farmers Branch.
So that's Farmers Branch in the summer of 2011. We want to thank everybody for being a part of this so far, and thank you for joining us on this mid-year glimpse. We'll see you in November, and hopefully it won't be quite this hot.
Thank you. I guess I failed to introduce myself. I am Mayor Bill Glancy. But all the campaigning and all the meetings I'm going through, I don't think there's anybody in here probably, I didn't think they'd know me. But I do want to introduce our council, and these are the folks that really make the decisions in the city and responsible for the things that you've seen in the video over the past 6 months. And to my left here is Mayor Pro Tem David Koch. Also, Councilman Ben Robinson, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Michelle Holmes, and Councilman Harold Freilich. I guess Tim Scott is not among us. He's the other councilman. Okay, he said he'll be here a little bit later. Also, do any of you have your spouses here tonight? You would like to recognize those. I think they put up with an awful lot to support the council folks in all that they do. All these jobs are very time-consuming, and you're away from our family a lot. I know my wife is here, Frances. You probably know her better than you know me. She's been involved in the community probably as much or more than I have. And Ben, is Jeanette here? Hi, Jeanette. Thank you. Also, we have a number of past council and mayors here, and I think that's a great statement for this community that a lot of our past people who served this city stay involved, and they're a great source of reference and wisdom to a lot of us that are in the present position to make leadership. And I see Mayor Dave Blair and his wife Jan down there beside them. I see Councilman Calla Davis and Robert. Let's see, who am I missing? Oh, here's Mayor Bob Phelps and his wife Dee. Welcome. Is there any other past council or mayors here that we've met in? Also, I would like to introduce our city manager, Gary Greer, and let him come forward and introduce some of the staff that will be here tonight to answer your questions. Gary?
I think Junie Smith's here too. She was on council. Where are you, Junie? She was. Oh, there you are. Stand up. Say hello. I'm Gary Greer, the city manager, and have quite a bit of staff here today. And I'd like for the entire department directors and all those support staff to please stand up, and I'd like to encourage you to give them a hand for the job that they do, please. They're here tonight to answer any specific questions you might have about any of their departments, and they're very glad to be here and serve you, and we really appreciate being able to serve all the citizens of Farmers Branch, and appreciate being here tonight. And with that, Mayor, you can start the town hall meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Well, we want to leave as much time as possible to your questions. That's what we're primarily here tonight, to listen to what you folks have to say about the city and what you'd like to see done in the future, and what you like about the city, what you don't, hopefully not too much you don't like, but anyway, that is the option. And if you will come up to the mic and address your comment to the council or myself, we will try to respond. Do we have the first person would like to come up and say anything about the city and what they would like to talk about? Issues?
I'm good with that. Okay, let me get up here. First of all, I want to just congratulate you again, Mayor Glancy. We're so excited to have you on this wonderful team of council people that we have in the city of Farmers Branch. I think that you're going to be a good fit, and everybody works so well together. And for my family and I, we've been so pleased with what's been going on in Farmers Branch, how the city looks. You know, you can drive through Farmers Branch now, and it's just a totally different environment than it had been. And for somebody who has been living here for over 50 years, that's just really awesome. The other thing I have to ask is, my mother said, ask them about the gang members. She read in the paper the other day that there was a big bust in the Dallas area, and that there were some gang members located in Farmers Branch as well as Carrollton. So I just wanted to see if that was, you know, a real small contingency, because I really feel like it probably is, but she asked me to ask about that.
Chief?
We do have a detective assigned to a gang task force. It's a program that ICE does put on. He serves several days a week with his task force, and they did a major sweep in the Metroplex, and he participated in that sweep. They arrested 68 gang members, seized a lot of drugs, guns. There was only one in Farmers Branch.
Good.
There was only one arrested in Farmers Branch.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
And one of the things we were very proud of, we had several of our known gang members that we arrested in Carrollton, and when they asked them, what are you doing in Carrollton, they said, well, there's too much pressure on us in Farmers Branch. So we're proud of that.
Well, thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Next.
Hi, I'm Kim Ross. I've worked at 3 different companies here in Farmers Branch. So I work, eat, sleep, and play in Farmers Branch. Love Farmers Branch. My question is, I was wondering, how do we get our sales tax revenue? Because at the 3 companies that I was at, they were all registered in Dallas. So since we share a zip code with Dallas, I was just kind of wondering how we got our revenue.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
That's a constant challenge for us. We look at sales tax permit information on a weekly basis, and over the past about 15 to 18 years, we've, as part of our review process in the finance department, we've been able to have up to, it's been about $13 million worth of revenues that have been reallocated from other cities to Farmers Branch. So we review permits. Sometimes we make the use of consultants that actually look and compare Dun & Bradstreet reports versus addresses. And we look at certificate of occupancy permits compared to sales tax reports, water records compared to sales tax reports. As you know, with 5 zip codes in Farmers Branch, it's sometimes difficult for a lot of our businesses to, or the people that report for those businesses, to realize that they're actually in Farmers Branch and not in Dallas or Carrollton. So the city is very, very active in realizing and in reviewing those records. And we try and catch them all. I'm not saying we catch everybody, but we try and do the best we can to make sure that the revenues that are generated in Farmers Branch are returned to Farmers Branch.
Okay, just wanted to check that we were on top of that. Thanks.
Okay. Well, Charles is being modest. He just sent us an email that he collected another $281,432 just this month that was misallocated to Dallas. So they are very diligent at this, and it pays great benefits. Next question.
Good evening, Mike Harrison. Administrative question. What is the possibility of pushing the council meeting back to 7 o'clock or 6:30? For a lot of us that work downtown or the mid-cities, it takes us a while to get back, and that would be much of a benefit for a lot of us.
Okay. Anybody on the council would like to address that?
I think the decision probably would have to be raised at a study session where the council can all talk about it. I don't recall the whole discussion as to why it was moved. I know why it was moved from Monday to Tuesday, but as to the exact time, I think part of it had to do with the fact that it's a very young council. A lot of us have kids, and so it's an effort to be able to get together in the study sessions early enough to get through all the issues and then get to the council meeting and try to present everything to the
Or
staff.
split the difference, like 6:30?
That's a possibility. It's just
Okay.
a matter of council talking amongst themselves and then kind of putting a feeler out and see what generally the citizens would like to see.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. We are recording all your questions, and we will address all of them as a council and look at them and see what the merit of them are. I know I have had people, besides yourself, state that they would like to see the council meetings a little later in the evening so that they have a chance to get home and get some dinner and be able to come to the meeting. So that is something that we will be looking at.
Bill, I'd like to address that as well. I agree with you, Mr. Harrison. I think it would be a good change for us to have the meeting a little later, and I hope that we can get that on an agenda here very soon. And thanks for your comments.
Okay. Next. Come on, folks. I just went through a campaign. I heard a lot of you say things you didn't want to talk about.
Brenda Broderick. Concerning this council meetings, Mr. Glancy, you had mentioned that perhaps we may have time at the end of the council meetings for citizen input. Will that be a reality or be discussed amongst y'all?
I have just emailed the city manager to put that on a study session, that we will discuss that. I am very much for that. The open meeting laws in Texas are so restrictive now, it's almost impossible to conduct a meeting without violating some open meeting law anymore, which is so much different when I was on the council back in the 80s. I want to put that on there. I want to forewarn you that it is very little interaction the council can have under the open meetings law with people coming and making comments. We will listen to what you say. We can have a limited amount of discussion, but no decisions can be made, nothing like that. It all has to be put on an agenda and for full disclosure before we could act on anything that you bring forward. So we're going to do it. I think it is a very good point. We're there to serve you folks, and we need to know what you like and dislike. And so that is certainly our intent, is to put I think it'll probably be more formal like citizens comment, whether you something about the meeting or whatever that you would have a question about, then we will try to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question is on senior housing. Do you still have plans in place for senior housing development in Farmers Branch?
Yes, I have been working with a company called Reese & Architects Associate. They are in negotiations with Dallas Medical Center to possibly put a senior housing facility on the hospital complex. It would not involve any of the present buildings. It would be east of the present campus, Plaza 4. It would be where that parking lot is, and that the park area that we built originally for the psych ward when they had that in Farmers Branch. And it is designed, I've seen the plans, it is a progressive center that has independent living, assisted living, nursing care, and a memory center with it. It also has a limited amount of retail with it, and oddly enough, they plan a daycare center with it. They say that there's a great connection between seniors and taking care of young children. So, and Reese bills themselves as one of the largest developers of senior housing complexes in the country, and I've seen a lot of their products, and they do a very nice job. So that's one thing we're doing. That's not the only thing, but that's the only thing at this point I can tell you definitely. We're seeing more and more demand for senior housing in our community as all of us age. Oftentimes it's going to get to the point where it's probably not a choice, but it's a necessity that we look at other types of living arrangements. So,
okay.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you. One more comment. This is just a suggestion for Liberty Fest. The music, I think, needs to be more upbeat, more family-friendly, more inspiring, something that the seniors, the kids, the families, everyone would enjoy, maybe even something patriotic, something that we, since it's that kind of a weekend where we can be uplifted and inspired. The music that was played, I thought was, I left feeling really dirty. I mean, I just didn't like the music, so that's my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. We will be going through an evaluation of Liberty Fest very shortly, the council, and looking at all aspects of it. This is the second year for Liberty Fest. I think the staff and the council has done a great job from ground zero, but those type of things can always be improved, and we will continue to look at it and see whether the whole format of it, whether the entertainment is right, the dates are right, all parts of it, I think, is open for discussion. But I think it was a great event. Hats off to our staff. They just did a wonderful job of bringing that event to the community, and the thousands of hours that went into bringing that event off is unbelievable. Thank you.
Bill, if I could, I wanted to kind of go back to the public discussion question and just make sure it was clear. Is we're going to, at some point, probably in the near future, have it as a item for discussion on the study session to determine whether it's a feasible opportunity or it's feasible to put it back on the agenda. We need a legal opinion from our council, because what we ran into in the past is when people could get up, make comments, and there were instances where there were derogatory comments or comments that were just flat wrong, and the council was advised by the legal team that they could not respond in any manner whatsoever. So it left an impression with the people that were either in the council session watching it or watching on TV or got reports from other people that something was amiss or that there was something said or something wrong, and we had no way to rebut it until after the fact. And as you guys all know, that saying, a lie gets around the world how many times faster than the truth. So that's one of the concerns we have, and that'll be one of the things we balance is if the legal opinion comes in that it's feasible to have the public discussions and be able to at least rebut comments that aren't right, or at least put out accurate information or comment so that there's no misunderstanding or left with the wrong impression. So that's going to be the tough part about it is to be able to balance it so that citizens can have their input, and we make sure that citizens get accurate information in a timely manner.
Okay. Yes, it's when elected official in the state of Texas now, you're required to watch a video by the state attorney general and sign off on that video that you watched it. And it is very restrictive about the open meetings laws and all those things. So, but we're going to try our best, and I think we can do it. In my heart, I have a problem thinking that anybody's going to sue us because they got up and they had a chance to get up and say something. But I mean, who knows? Next question. Yes.
I have a question on your...
Could you come up to the mic so help other people hear your question?
On your daycare thing that you were talking about, is that senior daycare or is that children's daycare? I think we really need a senior daycare.
They explained it as children's daycare. Now, maybe there's an issue there that we may need to address with that.
Yeah, I'd really like some clarification on that. I think that's something that we really need.
Okay. Gary. Other questions?
Marty Gierl, 3404 Bevan Drive. At the last city election, there was a question asked regarding mayor and council term limits. What has become of that?
It passed by a 2/3 vote, I think, that there are term limits. It will be enacted it was enacted in the charter, and it is in place. It starts with myself and with Harold, and goes all through the council. It will be enacted. It incurs now a councilman could only run in 2 terms, or a combination of 2 terms, and a mayor, he could be a combination, and I think it's 3 terms total, which is three-year term. So that has been enacted, and that's what it'll be. I think, and a sidebar to that, Marty, I think it's going to be more important, you know, as we start bringing people onto our boards and things like this. We're going to need more experienced folks in solving, because you're not going to have a lot of council folks with a lot of longevity in the future. The turnover is going to be fairly rapid. And so we want to encourage people, get involved in boards, get involved in activities of the city. Council government is a group management, and it is different than corporate management of an individual. And working within a group and managing within a group is a whole different scenario. And I think people, a board is a good way to kind of see how that process works. Any other question?
No, thank you very much.
Sure.
Bill, the term limits were different than or counter to the city charter, so we had to have an election to approve a change to the city charter. And so in May, when you're voting for the positions for mayor and city council, you also voted on the charter amendments, which provided for the term limits. And the way it actually works is, for council, you can have 2 consecutive terms, and then you have to be off for at least 3 years before you could run for council again, unless you run for mayor, in which case, if you run for mayor, you could then serve 2 terms as mayor, and maybe have as many as 12 years consecutive, but then you'd have to step off. Likewise, somebody that's mayor could be mayor for 6 years and then run for council and be on for 6 more years, but then would have to step off for at least 3 years before they could run again.
They're also in the electoral process, and Gary, you may need to explain this. I'm not sure I understand it. The state legislature has just passed a change in this process, I understand, and as far as the times when elections may be held in the future.
We're going to have a public dialogue about elections in the future. In order to meet some federal standards, the legislature is passing SB 100, basically, and what it's going to do is move the primary election and make it so the county is going to be unable to do yearly elections. So we're going to have to, and they've allowed for cities to look at their situations and change them possibly by charter without an election. And so in the near future, as we roll out and the legislature ends, hopefully someday, we'll go ahead and look and see if there needs to be changes in the electoral process and many things need to be discovered, because we may have to go to every other year elections. We have to move to November. It may stay in May, but there's some real situations that are going to occur for cities, and all of us city managers have been talking about, you know, how can we kind of work together to make this all work well and not disrupt our citizens or our elected officials. So there'll be more on that to come, and there'll be a lot of public information about that, and we'll seek input from the citizens. But quite frankly, what's happened in Texas, it was a very well-intended bill that was going to help people in the military, has really kind of put cities in a situation where we're kind of scrambling. So we'll be working on that. We do have until 2014 to fix that, but it will probably be a significant circumstance to the city.
Other questions?
Good evening. My name is Bill Freehoff. I'd like to compliment the city on Liberty Fest. Great event. We have the new inline skate park. I'd like to see if we could look at either raising the fence height on it, or perhaps extending inwards on a sloped angle. A lot of the pucks are escaping from the park and have to be chased into the neighbors' yards.
Okay.
I'm a neighbor.
Okay.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Point well taken. Okay. We will look into that. More questions?
Hi, I'm Vicki Crow. I live in a revitalization neighborhood, and I'd like to know how we're going to address the issues. I've got charming cottages in my neighborhood, a lot of good things going on there, but I've got a lot of things that need to be addressed by the city. I don't even know how to tell you how poor some of the people, a few of the people maintain their homes. How can we address that? We need to get that fixed. It affects my property values. It affects my mother's property values. It affects everybody's property values. I would like to know how we get to the core of that, get it taken care of.
Okay. Well, I have some ideas I want to present to the council on encouraging redevelopment of our neighborhoods. I think that's one of the core areas that we need to address in our community. Most of our housing stock was built like in the late 1950s, early 60s, some of it even prior to that, and some of it needs a lot of revitalization. And it's a combination of things, Vicki, not necessarily scrape off, tear down, but just fix up and repair and things like that.
I'm talking about people that do not take care of their homes. I'm not talking about, older homes are great, cottages are great, but, you know, trash in the front yard, trash in the street, trash in the backyard, that's not acceptable. How are we going to handle that?
Okay, well, code enforcement is a continual process that we're going through, and if the city manager could expound on it better than I could about what we're doing there, what we're trying to do. We get complaints on both sides, either we don't have enough or we have too much, and we are trying to come up with sensible solutions that make sense for our community and help our property values. Gary?
Do you live at Branch Crossing?
Yes, I do.
Okay. We probably have one of the most...
I live at 2655 Leda May Lane.
Okay. I was just up there today looking around, and I did see a couple of properties that I think we need to do some violation notices to.
Absolutely.
And it's really easy to do in Farmers Branch. I think we have one of the most proactive and probably one of the most aggressive code enforcement departments probably anywhere. There you go. It's always nice when people agree with you.
So I need to call every day?
No. Well, actually, we have people that call every day, but...
well, I can do that.
There's a couple of things you can do. We've tried to make it as easy as possible. Calling is one thing. I get plenty of calls. My assistants do, and the code enforcement office does also. The other thing that you can do is we actually have on mygov.com is a place where you can go in and just fill in an address and click a box that says trash or whatever. That instantly will go to the car of the code enforcement officer, and that person will go up and write a notice at that point in time. And we've really gone computer-wise wireless in that department, and we turn those things around. We usually have approximately 1,500 code complaints going on any given day, and constantly working those. So we need help because we can only be in so many places at a time. But when we get a request, we that day deal with it, and we'll be glad to do that on any properties that you see that are out of compliance. And your neighborhood, I think, gets the once-over is what I call it, is basically when we go house to house to house to house in one particular area of town at least twice a year. But sometimes that just doesn't do it when you've got people who don't take care of the properties.
No, I've been calling for about 4 years now. So.
And unfortunately, I had to call one in my neighborhood last week too. But I feel that's my duty as a citizen, and you know that we can't see everything, but we have made it as easy as we can. Maybe we can get you with Jim Oak and help you figure out how to just log in real quickly, put a short address, and do it very quickly, even quicker than calling.
Okay, and that will get us some results.
Yeah, and the other good thing about it is you can,
I'm not giving up on this.
I understand. Well, I don't think anybody's giving up on this. I think it's a constant issue that we have to deal with over and over again, and it's really
I mean, it's just a couple of properties.
And well, that's easy then. But what you can do on that computer thing is you can go back in and see everything that's happened on that property. So you can see we issued a notice on this day, it went to court on this day, It's been fined, it's been rectified, so it's a really pretty nice system. But if you just soon call, if it's just 2 properties, why don't you write down the 2 addresses, give them to me tonight or give them to Jim Olkin, and we'll help you all we can.
I'll contact you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vicki, we've taken another step in that direction, too. Recently, I guess back within about 6, 8 months ago, there was a new board set up, which is Building and Standards. That generally is where really chronic problems that are not addressed ends up. That is a board that is set up. It's more like a trial. The defendants are brought before that board. They present their case. The city presents its case of violations, and that board then has the ability to fine people up to $1,000 a day for noncompliance. They can actually require structures to be taken down, replaced, and they will do it and assess the property if it's not done. And so that's the final step. Now, hopefully the folks you're talking about are not at that point, but we have, over the period of years, we have continual violations, ticketing process that goes on. This is the next step from that.
And does the homeowner appeal to that board, or do they appeal to Gary's department?
At that point, that board, when the decision of that board is final, their recourse then is to take it to the court system, county court system, to appeal it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have some recourse.
More questions?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name's Larry Lenzen. Lived in at 12461 Wood Manor Circle. My wife and I have raised our family out here since 1963. We've seen lots of good things happen in Farmers Branch, and as we said before, we live no place else other than Farmers Branch because of our police department, fire department, our city council, and all the fine people who work for our city. Concerning the redevelopment and of Farmers Branch, what can you tell us that's going on down, I think it's the old Brookhaven office park between Josie Lane and Webb's Chapel, that all of the buildings are being torn down? Is that part of the DART system? Is there going to be new retail coming in? Don't have a clue, and I'd like for you to address that issue. Maybe if it's going to be a major tenant, traffic problems, what have you.
That has been purchased by LBJ Express. Prior to that, it was owned by the developer who owns the property on the opposite side of LBJ, where the old Town North buildings were. They bought it initially, and it's been purchased from them by LBJ Express. My understanding is they're going to use it, some staging area for construction on there, but eventually their goal is to sell that property for redevelopment, and it is zoned for retail. And that's probably, unless somebody comes up with something that's viable as another alternative to that, that's what I would foresee in the future. I don't know, Gary, do you have any kind of a time frame on what, I don't know how long LBJ Express is going to be using it, but I think that's the initial act of what they're doing.
Yeah, that property basically was part of a condemnation process, and what's going on there is there's a huge gas line that needed to be moved to allow for the LBJ project to go forward. And in doing so, the developer had bought that property to do some large-scale retail development. But when the gas line got too close, it made it so, I'm sorry, let's speak softly, I'm sorry. The developer basically made it so he couldn't put like a big box or something in there, wasn't going to be deep enough. It's still good for retail, but he had no use for the property. They kind of went to court on that thing and ended up the state bought it through LBJ Express, and so they could get the highway moving. And they basically don't want to have any buildings. The state doesn't want to have any buildings, so they're knocking all those buildings down to clear the way. And we've been in contact with them to make sure that, you know, when they go to sell that, it goes to appropriate people that are going to be good for our community and, you know, build our tax base and those kind of things. So basically, it's an unintended strip of land for retail that's going to be smaller than it would have been had the gas line not been moved.
Thank you.
They did, the LBJ Express did come and make a presentation to the study session a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, and the question about whether to be used as a staging area was raised, and at that time, the indication was that it was not intended to be used as a staging area, and as far as I understand, they haven't come into the city to indicate they've changed their intended use at this point. I know that John Land from our Economic Development Department has talked to LBJ Express about the possibility of selling it so that something could come in sooner than the completion of the highway, and so that's still up in the air. But we're certainly trying to make sure that it's available for development now rather than at the completion of the project or the redevelopment of the highway.
Yes.
Council, my name's Jamie Jewell. I think you all know that already, didn't you? Yeah. I just want to thank you and city staff for all that you do. I have been blessed to be a resident here for 17 years now, and I have the children that prove this size. One in high school, one in middle school, and one in elementary right now. I'm actually at bus service. I'm not a parent. And I say I'm blessed because I've been able to work on a board and in PTA and on political campaigns with many of you as friends and neighbors and all these people in this room. And you're like my extended family in this community. Most recently, I was part of the Citizens Fire Academy. And I encourage everyone that has the opportunity to be a part of that academy. I learned so very much, and I feel so much safer. I thank you for offering that to us to attend as citizens and to learn about our community. All the chiefs taught about prevention, and they taught about what is going on in our community and the new fire station. And I sincerely feel safer as a result of living here in Farmers Branch as compared to some other cities that start with C or A or, yeah. Finally, would one of you guys please welcome back Cowboy Jeff? I'm so glad he's back. Thank you.
For those who don't know who Cowboy Jeff is, Cowboy, will you stand up? That's Jeff Harding. Jeff was recently at his ranch or farm and was tending to the livestock and had an unfortunate accident where one of the cows decided to try to make mush out of him, and so he spent some time in the hospital. Fortunately, his wife was there, who's another longtime Farmers Branch resident, and saw what was happening and rushed out and played rodeo clown and distracted the cow, and so Jeff was able to get away and back to safety, but he has been recuperating ever since, and we're glad today, I believe, is his first day back since the incident, so we're happy to have you back.
Okay. Yeah. Following up on that, also Francis Stoper, who takes care of the special events for the city and does all these great things like the Liberty Fest and that, has had very serious illness and has been in the hospital. I understand she's back home today, but we've had a real scare with Francis. Also, you may know or may not know, Jeff Fuller, I'm sorry, has announced his retirement as of the end of September. Jeff has been a fixture in Farmers Branch for over 25 years and is head of the Parks and Recreation Department, is going to be sorely missed. I think Jeff's out right now with a rotator cuff surgery, but why don't you get a chance in the future to express your thanks to Jeff. We certainly appreciate that because he's done a wonderful job for our city. One other thing you mentioned about schools, and in this past election, the issue of the school system was on the ballot about separation, and obviously that did not pass. But we did see, and people, some folks, not all, some folks have said that they would like a consolidation of the school system. Right now, we have residents live in Farmers Branch whose children go to DISD school. Gary and I met with the superintendent, a couple of the board members about 3 weeks ago, I guess it was, Gary, and they did mention under the present guidelines the state's allowing, and that the way funding is done now in the state of Texas, that school systems do have the ability to allow students from other districts to come into their district. And they said that they are looking at and willing to consider the prospects, probably not in the coming year, but the following year after that, if children who live in Farmers Branch, who go to DISD school, wish to go to Carrollton Farmers Branch school system, they will be allowed to do that. This is part, it's happening in several systems. I think some of the places in Capel opted the children to go into Capel as opposed to go into Carrollton Farmers Branch. So it's not precedented thing, but it's something they need to look at the housing facilities and make sure they have enough to house the students. But that would be some option for those of you who live in Farmers Branch who, if you so choose, it's another option as an opportunity to go to school. To me, the LBJ expansion is going to cause more division in the DISD school system with that school. They're going to have to replace that bridge, that pedestrian bridge, and that pedestrian bridge is going to have 2 elevators in it to meet handicap standards. So that's going to be a very expensive proposition to put an elevated bridge or a bridge with elevators on it to allow those children to get back and forth across over LBJ. So I think, you know, anything we can do in the interim that might change that situation, we're certainly looking at. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question, or maybe
Come over here, Pat, and get on this mic.
Ongoing construction with LBJ, what is going to be happening soon that's going to be the biggest impact on us as travelers around, back and forth across LBJ? I've been hearing things about they're going to be tearing down the Rosser Road Bridge soon. Do we know how quickly that is going to happen?
We've hired a consultant to basically advocate for our citizens, and day to day he's been working with LBJ and their contractors. And Dave Davis is going to get a mic and tell you everything you need to know about LBJ, and we're afraid to ask.
Thank you, Gary. I'm Dave Davis, and also back in the corner is Laura Cole with Trinity Infrastructure Group. They're the people building LBJ. So if I say something incorrect, you chime in. Noise wall construction is underway. They've been drilling foundation or putting in foundations for the new noise walls. That's going to continue and probably be wrapped up this summer. This summer you will see the Joe Ratcliffe pedestrian bridge demolished and replaced. You'll see that process begin probably here in the next month or month and a half. The last projected schedule I heard for Rosser is that bridge construction will begin probably in the fall, late summer, early fall. We expect to see construction beginning on the Marsh intersection, the Marsh Lane intersection, probably in July. We'll probably see construction in the area of the Welch intersection later this summer. The remaining section of the HOV lane, which is mostly to the east of us now, that's going to be closed down, I think, for good this coming weekend. And you will see frontage road construction beginning this summer as well, I believe. Those are the first things coming up. Then it's going to be a while before we see the other intersections like Josie, Webb Chapel, and Midway. They can't do two of them in succession, so they'll be staged out and spaced out over the course of the project. But those are kind of the highlights of what's coming up in the next few months.
Thanks, Dave. Any other questions? That is what I just said, and that's a detail that still hasn't been resolved, and people are jumping through hoops trying to figure out whether it's better to do Marsh and Rosser at the same time or run the risk of doing Marsh and Midway at the same time. So there's some things trying to be worked out, trying to figure out what the best solution is. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying that those time frames that I gave you are going to be hit, everyone, because my experience so far, the schedule is highly fluid. But the noise wall construction is underway, and the rest of those dates are what I'm expecting based on what I've heard right now. Okay. Thanks, Dave.
On this
Paul?
topic, just a couple days ago, I looked at, I think it was LBJexpress.com, and they have a 4-minute flyover of the whole thing, but absolutely no details. Where can one go to keep up with the details of the schedule of the construction?
Let me give you a couple of suggestions. LBJ Express has a public information office that's open every day. It is located in Farmers Ranch over on McEwen Street in the old center office development. The exact address is, Laura can give you a card. So that kind of information is available every day. I think it's like 7 in the morning or 5 days a week. Okay. If you sign up via you can get their email service, and they will email you a weekly update of what lanes are going to be closed and what's going on.
So there really isn't a website with the details?
I'm sorry?
There really isn't a website that contains the details? LBJexpress.com didn't. I must have looked at the wrong place.
I'm going to hand the microphone to Laura, that I wanted to also mention to you that we have asked Laura and her colleagues to, and they've had a couple of them here, but we're aiming to have quarterly community meetings for Farmers Ranch residents to go over exactly that kind of thing and give you the chance to ask questions and comments and that sort of thing. Great. So I just kind of wanted to give you an overview, and I'll let her give you some more specifics.
Well, you actually pointed out the one thing that I was going to mention to address the first question was the best source of information is the project website. It's lbjexpress.com, which you've obviously already visited. That's the place that you're going to be able to sign up for those weekly email alerts that Dave mentioned. Those emails go out every Friday afternoon, and it gives you sort of a 1-week look ahead to know about what are the lane closures that are going to come up in the next week. So as you're driving the corridor, you won't be surprised by any lane closures. If it's not already posted up there yet, which maybe it sounds like it wasn't when the last time you visited, within the next day or so, it will be posted pretty much a 6-month look ahead that'll show you the areas that we're going to anticipate working in over the next 6 months, probably to the end of the year. As Dave mentioned, though,
our schedule, especially right now in the early stages of it, is kind of fluid. And so that's why we've hesitated putting any specific dates out there, because we don't want to create expectations that are then going to change. But as we get farther into the construction, those dates will start to solidify, and you'll see more information about specific areas. But the areas that Dave mentioned earlier are those areas you're going to see pretty much to the end of the year. The Rosser, possibly the Welch toward the end of the year, Hillcrest area, the sound walls along the residential areas, and then some work relocating utilities along the corridors where you're going to see for the rest of the year. But again, I encourage everybody to visit the project website, because that really is the best opportunity to stay informed. For those of you that don't have internet access or just prefer that face-to-face interaction, please do come and visit our Project Information Center. It is on McEwen. I don't have the address memorized, but I have some information cards and some other project information flyers that I'm going to leave back here on the infrastructure table in the back of the room here for any of you that want some updates about the project or just want to know how to get a hold of us.
Thanks. Okay. Well.
Yes, because you've also got something for people with smartphones that use LVJ regularly that will give them traffic information.
Thank you for that commercial, Dave. We've actually just implemented a mobile app for those of you that have smartphones, Blackberries, iPhones, who are accustomed to or want to get that up-to-the-date traffic information on your phones. We have implemented a device called Beat the Traffic, incorporated that into our website. So if you go to the website, you can sign up for Beat the Traffic through our website, and that's going to allow you to get up-to-the-minute traffic alerts as you drive through the corridor, let you know, one, if there's any traffic-related lane closures or tie-ups, but also if there's any incidents and accidents along the corridor. That will also be able to send you emails to give you some alerts on that real-time traffic map through that application. So that's a real handy application that we're offering to the corridor users. That's it.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Janice Crozier, and we live on Harley Drive in Farmers Branch, and I'm just wondering what the update is on fracturing for the gas well company that wanted to drill in Farmers Branch.
Gary?
Yeah, I'm actually on the Valwood Improvement District Board also.
I'm sorry?
I'm on the Valwood Improvement District Board also, and we had a meeting on this today, and there's no activity. Apparently the market and the gas prices have gone so low that they're not moving forward at this point in time. There are a couple of sites, of drilling sites in Farmers Branch. They're both way on the west side, almost to Irving. But there's no plans to go forward at this point in time to do any drilling or fracturing.
Okay, because I'm just concerned about the toxins in the water that they use.
Yeah, I think
rightfully so.
There are a lot of people concerned about that, and we're requiring environmental reports in the event that they move forward, that they have to prove that we have a safe environment for all of our citizens. Luckily, on the west part of town, we have very few citizens, but but we are on top of that. The planning department and environmental department have been on top of that since the day they started the process.
Will you send out email updates as they occur? Possibly, like on a bi-monthly basis or something,
what will happen
so people can be informed?
Well, if something occurs, we will have a public meeting on it.
Oh,
and that'll
thank you.
be sent out to everyone. There'll have to be a plating process and at the council and at the planning commission. So there'll be a couple of public meetings on it if it moves forward. But right now, what the experts tell me is the price of gases, don't see it moving anywhere soon. They've taken all the rigs and headed for Pennsylvania, and they're looking for liquid, and the gas isn't selling right now. So,
okay.
So right now, there's just no status at all.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Indicated that it would be necessary, that there would not be construction on consecutive bridges, but that situation seems to be good and in play with the LBJ project group. And what I'd really like to reiterate, a question and ask you to validate is that before they begin construction in the city, you will receive a plan. The city will have to okay that plan, and I would like to inquire as to whether or not you can send out some sort of public notice when you do receive plans from the LBJ project, so citizens might be aware of what the situation was and might be able to make compliance.
make comments to you as opposed to dealing with the LBJ Press, since it would involve property in this city or directly affect the citizens in this city, so that there could not be any mischaracterization or misunderstanding as to what the city's role was and what you as a city had approved or not approved. So it's a question, but also I want to be certain that that is as I understand. That they cannot work in this city on city property without the okay of the city. And that the only person that has that authority is, I believe, Mr. Greer or the city council. Is that correct?
Mrs. Harrison, I'll. Yeah.
Oh. Did you hear her question to be able to repeat, Gary?
Her and I talked about this earlier today,
No.
and I can't repeat the question because I don't. What I'd like to do is take some time with Mrs. Harrison and ask, and I'll find out the answer. I'm not sure who legally has the ability to tell a superior state organization whether they can approve their plans, and my inclination is that on the level of hierarchy, we're lower than the state. And we talked about that earlier, and I think that when they're on our property, we have every right to deal with them, and we will. When they're on their property or on their interstate, I'm not sure we can do anything but convince them or try to convince them to do the right thing. So I'll get with.
My question was,
Come up,
does the city, I don't want to go. My question was, does the city have to sign off on a plan that involves city property?
Can someone answer that for Mrs. Harrison?
Under the terms of the contract, the comprehensive development agreement for LBJ, work on city rights-of-way has to be approved by the city, and we have provided the contractor with our permitting forms and process and have made it clear that we expect them to get permits for the city for any work involving city rights-of-way.
My question was, would you notify the citizens when you're going to be giving the approval for such activities?
Something tells me that we might have had trouble with this in the past, Mr. Davis. Did we have trouble with some kind of with the state on this issue?
Well, at the inception of the project, the contractor installed signs on city rights-of-way and began trimming vegetation on city rights-of-way without a permit. And it caused us to have a serious conversation with them that generated the understanding that I just described about them getting a permit before doing work on city rights-of-way. In fairness to Mrs. Harrison, a lot of those issues directly affected her property. Some of the signs were directly in front of her house. Some of the vegetation was immediately adjacent to her house. So I certainly understand and sympathize with the point she's trying to make. On the issue of plan availability, the plans we receive are all kept at City Hall in the Public Works Department. We've kind of set up an informal reading room. They're stacked up based on whether they're roadway plans, or drainage plans, or noise wall plans, or traffic signal plans. And it's frankly a decision on the part of the city on whether those plans are available, but I can't imagine that if somebody wants to see a set of plans, they're sitting there, and if somebody wants to see what we have, I think they could be welcomed to review what we have, and everything we have received, and we receive probably a stack of plans this thick every week. So they come in pretty fast. But I think they're available for the public right now.
Let me, my understanding, okay, if I'm wrong, but the corporation limits of the City of Farmers Branch began at the north edge of the easement of LBJ Freeway. The service road of the westbound service road is actually in the city of Dallas. Is that not correct? So we have very little of the LBJ Freeway is actually, if any, is in the city of Farmers Branch. Now, if they acquire more land or do something like that, that's a different issue. But right now, most all of LBJ Freeway is in the corporation limits of the city of Dallas. Any other questions?
Can you all tell us where we're at in the landlord lawsuit?
Landlord lawsuit?
Yeah.
The immigration lawsuit? Yeah. Okay, it is in appeals court in New Orleans. I don't know, I've heard predictions on when it should be a decision coming forward on that. Does anybody have a more updated time frame of?
Exact dates, no. The briefing, the primary briefing has been done by both sides. Our appeal, we filed the briefs first. The opposition filed their brief following. I believe there'll be an opportunity for a rebuttal or a reply. I think Gary's saying that we just submitted our reply to their opposition to our brief, and then they'll have an opportunity to do what I believe in federal court they call a rebuttal or a rebuttal. But once that's done, then the court will assign a panel and they will decide the case. So sometime, a reasonable anticipation will be sometime this year. The predictions, it'd be crazy for anybody to try to give a real hard prediction, but we can give you some indicators. If you've been watching the Supreme Court in the last month, there have been 2 outstanding decisions from the perspective of the city and its ordinance. The Supreme Court last month came down with a decision upholding an Arizona statute that took it upon, where Arizona took it on themselves to help enforce some of the federal immigration laws. The Supreme Court, in essence, said that there is not preemption, that the states and local subdivisions are not preempted from trying to help enforce immigration laws. The court went so far as to say that there is what is called concurrent enforcement opportunities, so that a state or a political subdivision of the state has the opportunity to assist the federal government in the enforcement of the federal immigration. And that's consistent with a lot of the statutes and a lot of the programs that the federal government has established, 287G, the Criminal Alien Program, Secure Neighborhood Program, where the federal government relies on the local governments and the state governments to get involved. So that was the first one last month in Arizona. Then about 2 weeks ago, even more close to home for us, is the Supreme Court ruled on the Hazleton, Pennsylvania case. If you recall, Hazleton was actually the first city in the country to step forward and start the immigration battle. We were the second, maybe the third. But Hazleton lost their case at the trial court level and at the appellate court level. And the Supreme Court came back and said that the Third Circuit Court of Appeals in, I believe, Philadelphia was wrong in their decision and on part of it, and they remanded it back to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals and told them to reconsider their decision based on the ruling on the Arizona case and the broad statement that preemption is, that state enforcement or local enforcement is not preempted, and that there's concurrent enforcement opportunities. That for us is a very good decision. Their ordinance is broader than ours. They have housing and employment aspects of their ordinance, but the fact that the Supreme Court told the Third Circuit Court of Appeals that they were wrong and they need to reconsider the decision certainly sends a good message to us and the battle that we've been in, and suggests that the resolution that we've had in continuing the battle may well be rewarded in the near future. Just 2 days ago, had a third case that came down that could be helpful, although it's not from the federal court. The Supreme Court of Oklahoma had a case before it, and they upheld state rules and state ordinances regarding the enforcement of illegal immigration. And so all the cases that have been coming down lately seem to be coming down in the direction that would suggest that we're headed in the right direction, and that the Fifth Circuit, if they continue in that vein, will hopefully support and uphold our ordinance and suggest that the trial court did not make the right decision. That would have to be a decision that's based on a deliberation of the entire council. The question was, if the decision comes down against the City of Farmers Branch in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, would we continue the battle or continue the fight? And the answer is, we can't sit here today and tell you yes. We would have to sit in a council meeting, get briefed by our legal counsel, and then make a decision. If you want to try to read the tea leaves from everything that's happened so far and all the comments that have been made, the educated guess would be that we probably will continue on to the last level of the Supreme Court because of the cases that have come down lately. That certainly would bolster that position. But until the council is faced with that decision, they have an opportunity to get fully briefed and educated. It's hard to say.
Anybody else want to make a comment on it?
May I please clarify my statement earlier? I was not in any way impugning the efforts of the city. Mr. Davis and Mr. Pavageau have been exceptionally helpful in all issues that have pertained to us personally. They have worked tirelessly, I would say, in many instances, and been extremely responsive. My question simply to the council was that if it involves city property or a desire by the LBJ Express to change plans and take city property, if you could assure us that we would be publicly notified that they had made that request of the city, so there would be an opportunity for citizen input before you would agree to any deal with this entity. That's what I'm asking. I'm not saying that previously the city has not worked to protect the rights of the citizens. That was my question. Would there be public input?
Thank you.
Again, you're asking a question that's perspective, so a definitive answer can't be given. If something like that comes up, then it's, and it requires a city vote or a change in zoning or variance, then yeah, there's no question our procedures require that. If the state were to decide to expand further to the north and they're going to have to take residential property, business property, then there's going to be an uproar that I don't think we would have to do a single thing. The citizens and the press would be all over it. But if something like that happened, my guess is that the staff is going to be notifying the residents. The residents will probably be calling the staff right away too to discuss it. So if you've got a major change, I think there are probably several built-in procedures that they'll be brought to the attention of the public. And whether it's something that we can do a broadcast of some nature, I think we have to answer that as they come along, because it's just so hard to envision everything that might happen. But certainly if it's city property related, I would think that if we're going to sell it, there's a requirement that there be a public hearing. Gary, you might clarify on that.
Well, thus far, all procedures have been followed, though. So that's my concern. That's why I'm
I think two-part question is, if they try to take any of our land, or if they try to expand the project, which my understanding is there's no chance in the world of that happening, we would have a public hearing, and we could not just, I couldn't get rid of the land without a public being notified. On the other thing, if they decide to go illegally put signs in our right-of-way, all we can do is respond to them. And I think that was an unfortunate situation that happened before, and as soon as we were alerted to it, we rectified the problem. So I can't alert people about someone doing something they're not supposed to do. All we can do is correct it after the fact. Anytime we can give public notice, and specifically to people who live right along the area, we'll do that, and we'll continue to do that. And we're doing our best in a situation that's very abnormal to have a 5-year project, number one, and to have a multi-billion-dollar project. So, you know, I know you know my phone number, and everyone else knows where I work, and I get paid to make this right. So we'll try to make it right as we can, and I know we'll try to. As far as the homeowners, we're there to help, and we've hired someone to even help us further. So on those issues, we will try to be as public as we possibly can on anything that changes that might affect our citizens.
Any other questions? Council? Anybody have anything to say? You folks usually have things to say.
Thank you, Mayor Clancy and Councilman. My name is Libby Richardson, and I've lived in Farmers Branch since 1978. And I wanted to share a story. My sister-in-law came to visit us this week, and she said it's very interesting, Libby, when you drive from Dallas to where you live in Farmers Branch, you can tell when you get there by the centerpieces of the streets. What is the right name?
Medians.
By the medians. And so I just wanted to compliment the Parks and Recreations Department, because I believe you can tell when you drive from Dallas to here.
Thank you. I think our Parks and Recreation Department is certainly to be congratulated. I hear that continually, that the quality of the maintenance and the level of landscaping and things in our park is phenomenal. People who come here from other areas compliment us on a regular basis. It is amazing the level of maintenance that's done on these parks, and I think it reflects a lot on our community and what we are. So, anything else?
I'd like to say something, if I may.
Sure,
Mayor. As all of you know, we've had a very difficult economic period over the last couple of years, and Farmers Branch, I'm going to brag a little bit on Gary Greer and the staff and this council. We are probably one of the few cities in the state that have really reacted to the economic situation and have made corrections in the manner in which the city is operated in order to save money and maintain a tax rate that is appropriate for this particular city. The staff, as you know, we have contracted out a couple of items, being the library being one, and I certainly understand some of the issues that some of you have with that. But we've also contracted out the trash service, and those two items alone are going to generate a substantial dollar savings to you, the citizens of Farmers Branch. And that's a good compliment to Gary and the efforts of his staff. And they've worked hard to make that happen. And it has happened, and everything, to my knowledge, is working well. And we have a new budget coming up that we'll be working on in August. And I personally would hope that I can convince my other compadres here on the council that there's going to be something there that we can use to perhaps reduce taxes for this city, and I think that's certainly a possibility with what we're seeing happening with the sales tax revenue. And the last word I had on the property tax was that the decline was not as steep for us as it was for other parts of this city. So we're going to be, I personally will be taking a hard look at that budget and I hope that as a result of the hard work of the staff that we can do something with our tax rates, and I also I would hope that we would be able to reward the staff in some sort of manner, whether it's a cost of living increase or something along those lines. But they have really worked hard on your behalf, and I think they are deserving of whatever consideration that we can give them. And you as citizens, I think you are certainly deserving of us looking hard at reducing taxes if that is at all possible.
First, I want to apologize for being late. I appreciate y'all's willingness to let me sneak in here halfway through. I was trying to get 10 little 12-year-old girls to play basketball as good as the Dallas Mavericks, and was not quite as successful, but it was fun. And I just wanted to echo and give two examples. Hopefully they haven't been given already in my time not being here, to what Ben said about how grateful I am of what a great city staff we have in this tough economic time. We got an email today from Gary Greer and from Finance Director Charles Cox. You know, if you look at Farmers Branch, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes where Farmers Branch ends and Dallas begins, or Addison begins, and Irving begins, and Coppell begins. And because of that, sometimes sales tax reporting gets a little muddled. And because our city staff is so on top of sales tax reporting, they did an audit and found $281,000 this last month that should have gone to the city of Farmers Branch that had been going to other cities, and was able to correct that and to bring that money back into our city. And I think it's extra things like that. It would be very easy for them just to accept what the state says is our sales tax allocation and let it go. But because they are so diligent, that's almost $300,000 extra coming in to our revenue. And I think that's very much worthy of accolades, and I appreciate their hard work on that. Yeah, you can clap for that. And then the other thing I want to say about our city staff, I just think they're excellent. And the police force is another example. In my neighborhood, I live on Eric Lane, just south of Valley View, between Webb Chapel and Austell. And in the last few weeks, we've had a couple of burglaries in our neighborhood, a couple in broad daylight. And we have a very strong community watch program, but the police force was made aware yesterday morning that we had a burglary the day before, and last night when I'm walking my dogs, there's 3 patrol cars in my neighborhood driving around, keeping an eye out. So I really appreciate that our police force really does care about the safety of our citizens and is responsive to our needs, and I wouldn't live anywhere else, and I'm glad y'all feel the same.
Michelle?
Hi there. I know everyone, or a lot of you, are familiar with the comprehensive biking and walking trails that we've been talking about for a couple of years, and we haven't had all of the funding that we needed. Well, because of some of the work that we've done with DART, there is a little funding for us to take the first step of actually building trails from the DART station going north toward Valwood. So that is a project that I'm excited to see, and because we've talked about it for so long, trails joining with Irving, Addison, Carrollton, and even the Katy Trail in Dallas. Also, we missed it in our video, but we're going to have a 9/11 bicycle ride to honor all of the first responders who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. It will be held in honor of the 10th anniversary. I'm hoping that it will be an annual bike ride that we'll have every year going forward.
Thank you, Michelle, but I'd like to thank everybody that has come tonight. I see a few vacant seats here, and I wish the next time we do this, at our next town hall meeting, that every one of you bring a neighbor. This is a great opportunity for you guys to talk and visit with the council, and for us to get input from you. So bring a friend, bring a neighbor, bring somebody else, and come out here and participate. We're going to do the best we can do to increase participation by the council and in the community, and we just need help from you guys. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Yeah, Mike?
Hey, while Mike's walking up to the microphone, I want to say one last thing, an extended invitation. I'm very fortunate to be part of a group that is putting together a community theater to come to Farmers Branch.
Stole my thunder.
Is that what you're going to ask
stole my
about?
thunder.
How about that, Mike? Look, we're right here. We're together. And that is just a great example. You can still ask your question, Mike. Come on, Mike. You can still ask your question. Come on. So ask your question, and I'll see.
I just want to see what the status was,
Okay,
and make the announcement about the community theater.
Excellent.
And so forth.
I would tell you, this is one of those great examples of just a great public project. Working with the city, we're relocating a fire station from fire station number 1, an existing location on Valley View, to fire station number 1 and its new location on Webb Chapel. That building that fire station 1 currently sits in was built in the late 50s, early 60s. That property was deeded to the city to be used for a public purpose. And it's a great location to bring in a community theater in what will soon be a pretty busy, pretty burgeoning transit area development. And if you are interested in finding out more about that and helping to support that, the very first kind of community outreach meeting for that community theater to try to raise some support is going to happen at the end of next week. If you come up and talk to me, I'll get your email address and make sure you get an invite. But it's an exciting project. It's going to be a community theater that I think all of our citizens, from kids all the way through senior citizens, will just love. Very family focused, very traditional focused in its offerings. And I think it's just another great reason to be here in Farmers Branch, and we'll just add a ton to the community. So if you want to find out more about that and possibly support it, come see me afterwards and give me your email address.
As long as we're plugging great things going on in Farmers Branch, I guess what I'd like to tell you is at the Historical Park, we have a fund drive going on to build really an old-fashioned store, and like they had back in the old days where you could go and buy just about everything. We're still collecting money, but I'd like to tell you tonight that we've received all the money to do that project, and we'll be starting that directly.
Gary really has worked very hard on getting all the funding in place, and it started, we had a resident that actually donated the largest portion of it. I believe almost half, if not half, of the total cost was donated by a citizen, and it was in memorial for his deceased wife. But after that, we had several other large donations. So what could have been a long process really took, less than 6 months? So that'll be a nice addition to our historical park. And if you didn't make it out to Liberty Fest next year, please try to make it. It really is a good time. 4th of July, on the 3rd of July in the park is going to be great. In October, we will have the 2nd annual Bluegrass Festival. Last year, it was a tremendous success. We got emails from people. We had actually people come in from overseas to the Bluegrass Festival. They came from all over the country. We had probably 7,000 to 10,000 people on the 2 nights, and we'll do it again. It'll be in mid-October, and that'll be great. And the nice thing is the folks that run the Bluegrass Festival have also been talking to Mr. Scott about possibly using the theater for a few nights throughout the year to have little smaller picking and grinning venues, which would help make that a success. So that the Historical Park really has helped us put Farmers Branch on the map in a lot of ways, and to project a really positive image in the city that we are can-do and that we are very family-oriented. So take advantage of that park and all the opportunities or all the events we have out there, because it really is a nice jewel for the city's crown. So.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're getting close to 9 o'clock, which is the time we're supposed to draw this to a close. But we want to thank all of you for coming out. You're interested in the city, and the council will be here for a few minutes after we close, and to ask any additional questions you have. Along the wall, you see the core values that the city uses, this council uses in directing most of our decisions for the city. And so I appreciate you looking at those. And again, thank you all for coming out tonight, and call the meeting to a close.